Give me 2 minutes, and I'll tell you a story. How do you interview a hero? That question faced me in 1990 when I was writing an article on Hall of Fame football player Jim Brown for Men's Health magazine. The story was Fitness After Football, and it focused on several former pro football players and their exercise regimens after retirement. In Brown's case, it had been some 25 years since he left the game to pursue an acting career. As a freelancer, I had interviewed many famous people, but Jim Brown had been my favorite football player when I was growing up in Ohio and later in New York. I loved watching him play and kept a scrapbook during his record-setting 1963 season. Now, many years later, I was preparing to interview the man and the legend. I was given his phone number by an NFL PR person. When I called to arrange an interview time, he said in that deep, intimidating voice, "I'll give you 20 minutes. Call me tomorrow, 11 a.m. Click. I had met Brown when he came to Cleveland for a book signing the year before. My former Harrison, New York high school football coach, Art Troilo, was a teammate of his at Syracuse University. In fact, he started ahead of Brown on the roster. When Troilo was injured, Brown replaced him, and the rest is history. In his 1964 autobiography, Off My Chest, Brown dedicated a chapter to my former coach, All Hail Arthur Troilo. I used his name when I met him and reminded him of that connection when our phone call began. My first question: Mr. Brown, you and other retired pro athletes maintain your fitness years after retirement, but why do some former pro football players not stay in shape? I was taping the call with his permission, of course, and taking notes. The recorder light was on and my pen was poised. Let the interview games begin. You're asking me to comment on the motivations of other people, and I won't do that. Did Jim Brown just stiff-arm me or what? As I tell my journalism students, be prepared for anything in an interview. Be humble and have a sense of humor. Easier said than done. I had just seconds to reply, or I would likely lose this opportunity. Rather than be confrontational, yeah, right, me challenge Jim Brown in an interview. I took a breath and said, okay, well, maybe that wasn't the greatest opening question, but I have some really good ones here. When I heard Brown's trademark basso profundo chuckle, I knew we were off and running. That gambit on my part changed the dynamic, and we talked for almost an hour. At the very end, I told him I was honored to interview him, as he had been my gridiron hero. He was cordial and signed off saying, "All right, babe." I had never been called babe before and have not since. But there was something very special in hearing those words from my hero, the great Jim Brown. This is Mark Massey. Thanks for listening to my new weekly series, Give Me 2 Minutes, and I'll Tell You a Story. Stay tuned for more entertaining episodes, something to enjoy in these troubled times.